ADDS Components.
ADDS includes both logical and physical components. You need to understand how ADDS components work together so that you can manage your infrastructure efficiently. In addition, you can use ADDS options to perform actions such as installing, configuring, and updating apps, managing the security infrastructure, enabling remote access service and direct access, issuing and managing digital certificates. One of the most used ADDS features is Group Policy, which allows you to configure centralized policies for managing most objects in ADDS. Understanding the various ADDS components is important for using Group Policy successfully. Logical components. ADDS logical components are structures that you use to implement an ADDS design that is appropriate for an organization. The following table describes the types of logical components that an ADDS database contains. Partition. A partition, or naming context, is a portion of the ADDS database. Although the database is one file named index.dit, different partitions contain different data. For example, the schema partition contains a copy of the Active Directory schema. The configuration partition contains the configuration objects for the forest, and the domain partition contains the users, computers, groups, and other objects specific to the domain. Copies of a partition can be stored on multiple domain controllers and updated through directory replication. Schema. A schema is the set of definitions of the object types and attributes that you use to define the objects created in ADDS. Domain. A domain is a logical administrative container for objects such as users and computers. A domain maps to a specific partition and can be organized with parent-child relationships to other domains. Domain tree. A domain tree is a hierarchical collection of domains that share a common root domain and a contiguous domain name system, DNS, namespace. Forest. A forest is a collection of domains that share a common ADDS root and schema, which have a two-way trust relationship. Site. A site is a container for ADDS objects, such as computers and services that are specific to their physical location. This is in comparison to a domain, which represents the logical structure of objects, such as users and groups, in addition to computers. Subnet. A subnet is a portion of the network IP addresses of an organization assigned to computers in a site. A site can have more than one subnet. OU. An OU is a container object for users, groups, and computers that provides a framework for delegating administrative rights and administration by linking group policy objects, GPOs. Container. A container is an object that provides an organizational framework for use in ADDS. Some containers are created by default, or you can create custom containers. Containers cannot have GPOs linked to them. Physical components. The following table describes some of the physical components of ADDS. Domain controller. A domain controller contains a copy of the ADDS database. For most operations, each domain controller can process changes and replicate the changes to all the other domain controllers in the domain. Data store. A copy of the data store exists on each domain controller. The ADDS database uses Microsoft Jet database technology and stores the directory information in the ntds.dit file and associated log files. The C:\\Windows\ntds folder stores these files by default. Global Catalog Server. A global catalog server is a domain controller that hosts the global catalog, which is a partial, read-only copy of all the objects in a multiple domain forest. A global catalog speeds up searches for objects that might be stored on domain controllers in a different domain in the forest. Read-only Domain Controller, RODC. An RODC is a special, read-only installation of ADDS. RODCs are common in branch offices where physical security is not optimal, IT support is less advanced than in the main corporate centers, or line-of-business applications need to run on a domain controller.